Good morning, Shannon.
Hello.
How
Well,
are you
it's
doing?
almost afternoon.
It is almost afternoon. It's 10 here, so it's almost noon there. Yeah.
Yes.
Did you have lunch yet?
A little bit. More like a brunch, I guess.
Ooh, what was brunch at the Payne household?
So we're trying to do a little bit healthier. So I
Okay.
did the whole smoothie thing this morning. So, had to throw some spinach in it and Greek yogurt and, got to try to eat healthy in the new year. So we'll see how it goes. How
I
long
we
it
were
lasts.
we refer to kale in my household as zombie lettuce because it
Yeah.
never dies.
Yes.
You can leave that shit in the fridge for like a month and it's still crispy.
It's funny though, I actually really enjoy kale, which I know a lot of people are like, but I actually think it's really good. I'll put it in all my salads. I know it's weird, but I do enjoy it.
Like the Shannon cool factor kind of went down a little
Yeah,
bit.
I know, just a little bit, just a little bit.
That's okay. We'll track it. We'll bump it back up.
We'll see.
So I
No
for one
promises.
no promises. I, for one, am so excited that you're here on the Pivot team with us.
Yes,
And,
me too.
I wanted to do a quick Facebook Live, just let everybody know that you're now here. You're working with us. You've been here for a couple months, kind of hanging out in the background, learning the systems, everything like that. Why don't you tell me a little bit about why you decided to work with a couple of lunatics like me, John, and Paul?
Well, when the opportunity came about, I felt like at the beginning it was a no-brainer.
Okay.
One, the people that we have, I've known John for quite a while, obviously a part of Pivot in my past life,
Mhm.
and his knowledge and just what he knows about the industry and different things, to be able to learn from him, to me sounded like such an amazing opportunity. He's got a great thing with Pivot. And obviously, I know because I've been a part of it. I was very active within Pivot
Mhm.
with Ben and my role at JRCC. And so I
Mhm.
attended a lot of the BOA follow up calls, I've attended a lot of the BOA meetings. And so I knew what it brought to the restoration companies, and also being a part of different things within the restoration industry. I realized how many companies need something like this.
Mhm.
And so with that knowledge, and then knowing that I get to work with you and Paul and John, like I feel like it just put the cherry on the top. Because I'm like, if I get to learn from these people even more than I already know, it's huge for me. So
So
that's
if
why
I'm
I'm
taking
writing
I'm
it.
taking notes, Anthony Nelson was in the plus column.
Yes, he was. Yes,
Okay, good.
absolutely.
I'll let him know. I'll let him know. Awesome. And so like talk about your experience with Pivot as a participant or a consumer of our services. Like tell us a little bit about that, the rhythm, and why it was so meaningful to you in your role at JRCC in the previous life.
Absolutely. So I am a very introverted person naturally. So even just being on this Facebook Live, I'm like, I can feel myself sweating over here. Um, I'm like, oh, gotta be on Facebook. So for me, being a part of these groups at first was very scary. I mean, I'm quiet. Getting in front of people and talking is not really my thing. But as you attend these meetings and get to know these people, you realize that they're just people just like you. They
Mhm.
have some of the same issues that you go through as a restoration company, right? A lot of times, because I feel like our industry, although big, isn't, it's not like healthcare where
Yeah,
literally every time you turn around, you've got a healthcare office on some corner, right?
yeah, yeah.
Restoration isn't necessarily the same. And so a lot of times I felt like, man, we just go through these problems. Nobody else knows what we're talking about. Who can I bounce this idea off of, or I have this issue. Who can I go to and ask that question?
Mhm.
And this gives you that opportunity to have those conversations with other people. And they've, for the most part, have gone through exactly what you have gone through at some point, in their career as well. And so that was huge. I loved being able to attend the meetings and networking with the different companies and having those open conversations with them without fear of, oh, you're a competitor, or, oh, I really don't want to give you my information because I don't know what you're going to do with it. There was so much trust within these groups, you know, and that was wonderful. I really, really enjoyed it. And, you know, it was sad when I I got a little bit busier within some things that were happening with JRCC.
Yeah.
So it was sad for me when I had to kind of back away a little bit, because I really enjoyed those connections that I was able to make within those companies. And then being able to see, you know, so much information that about even your own company that you think you know about your company, and then you get into these groups and you get into these meetings, and you know, you're very vulnerable in front of all these people, and you realize, oh, one, maybe I don't have my stuff together as much as I thought I did, you know,
Yeah.
kind of brings you back down a little bit. And then in the other case, oh, okay, maybe I knew a little bit more about that than I thought I did, you know. So yeah.
I feel like a lot of the times running a restoration business is like playing a game of whack-a-mole. Like you get good at smashing moles on one side of the table, and then the moles are like standing up, you know, like you know, accounts receivable, right?
Yeah.
The accounts receivable moles are standing up over here, and you're like, man, I'm smashing these target marketing plans and we're knocking it out of the park. And then you're like, oh crap.
It is so true. Oh my God. I felt every time that we would get somewhere really good, and then we're like, oh wait, that one got ignored for the last, you know, 3 months. And oh, now we've got an AR problem or whatever it is, you know. Definitely. I mean, it's a fast-paced industry. Things are moving constantly. There's so much to learn.
No, I definitely agree. So why did you decide to stay inside the restoration industry? Like, I always find that to be an intriguing question, because all of us, like, nobody's like, oh, because the money's great and the hours are so good, right?
I know. You know, I don't know. Maybe because I spent 16 years in it, I didn't know any different. I mean, I've obviously had different jobs outside of JRCC when I was younger, but JRCC was my career for a lot of years. And so I knew restoration. I felt like I knew restoration, right or wrong, you know?
Yeah.
And so, you know, I thought about it. I thought about, do I really want to be in restoration still? You know, is there other things that I wanted to do? And just when it came back to it, I enjoy it. I enjoy the fast pace. I enjoy having, you know, my hair on fire every other day, although it's a little bit quiet with Pivot compared to working, you know, in a restoration company.
I try and keep it interesting.
You do.
Falls your way every once in a while.
Yeah, you guys do. That's for sure. But also, you know, with my husband and he's in the industry. And so, of course, I actually kind of like that. I enjoy that a little bit, because we get to talk, you know, obviously not specifics about anything, but we talk about, well, you know, it's nice to know that, okay, restoration companies, you know, across the United States were, you know, slower, right? My husband knows that side of it. Okay, the whole United States got hit with kind of a cold weather. We're going to get a little bit busier, you know, and be able to watch those trends and be able to talk about those trends with somebody who understands it. Because usually you go home and you kind of complain to your spouse about, oh, work, you know, blah, blah, blah. And they don't know what you're talking about most of the time, but he does.
So my wife's a photographer, right? And she's never been in the industry. And it's hard. Like it was raining cats and dogs here the past couple of days.
Yeah.
And it's hard to explain to her, like, even though I don't operate a restoration company, like when it rains that much, I still get nervous.
Yes.
I'm like edgy. I have a hard time sleeping. I'm constantly checking the weather. She's like, like nobody's going to call you.
No.
And you're going to have to go suck water out of somebody's house anymore. Like, that's just not what you do anymore. And I'm like, yeah, but I don't know. Like, I just can't turn that side of me off.
Yeah, exactly. You're still kind of just a little bit on edge because you just don't know. Maybe. Yeah. I mean, there's that 1% chance, but your anxiety starts to kick in that 1% can turn into more.
and there's always that nag in the back of my brain. Like, I almost want it to happen. Right. I miss the days of, you know, throwing on a Superman cape and running out and saving the day for people. Like, and I feel like that's probably a more common thread amongst restorers is we just enjoy that pursuit of making a difference for people in their time of need.
Yep.
You know,
it's a servant's heart. I think, you know, you have to have that to some extent in this industry. Otherwise you're going to get exhausted very quickly, you know.
I agree. So For those people that are watching or will watch this that are not members,
Mm-hmm.
why should they join Pivot from your perspective? Because you kind of are unique in the fact that you were a member previously, and now you're on the inside. You get to see all the guts and how they all work. Why
Yes.
should somebody join Pivot?
Well, I think it comes from multiple places. One, even if you think you know your business, there's so much more that any one of us can learn. And I think Pivot brings that. There's areas of your business to focus on and be able to help grow, revenue, leads, all of that. And Pivot is there to be able to guide you through that. And not only do you get the, privilege to work with you, to work with John, you've got so many other people that you have contacts with, having your peers as well in the groups. And really that networking, I think, is so huge. When you talk to other people, you can have different consultants, and I'm not, I know of a few in the industry, but I don't know a whole lot of information about them. But when you don't have the peer aspect of it, you just have that one-on-one, and you're relying on the one person to be able to help you out. And so with the peer aspect of it, you're relying on 50 other people, depending on how many people we have in just the executives, not even including their employees, because if they're involved, like Matt he was heavily involved. They have different aspects of the business as well. And so you've got just many different people that you can reach out to and get the help that you need. And we've seen, obviously, a good growth from these companies. So it's not like it's just, smoke and mirrors. It's there. We have the data, and we can prove that the companies that are within Pivot are able to grow.
Yeah. And so 2022, the average growth of an organization from when they joined Pivot to the end of the 2022 calendar year was like 70% on revenue, but 300% on operating profits. Like, by and large, those companies that joined Pivot and stayed tripled their operating profits since the day they joined Pivot.
Right.
And I think that speaks to our focus on developing the business systems and how we correlate those business systems to your key performance indicators. And the fact that, like, that is the drumbeat of Pivot, is we are looking at the data and correlating it to the business systems over and over and over again. And when you have that type of environment and you layer in that peer-to-peer and the ability to, have an intelligent dialogue about it and share in pain and share in successes, like, it's this beautiful ecosystem that checks all the analytical and, called the emotional and spiritual boxes that you need to check when you're trying to be a great business owner and you're trying to grow your business.
Absolutely. It doesn't just come down to revenue, because you can make or bring in essentially as much money and still not make any money at the end of the day, right? We know a lot of companies who have done that. They bring in revenue, they can be a very large company, but at the end of the day, there's no, profit there. And so being able to not just bring in more revenue, but make sure that you're doing it in a profitable manner and knowing what those numbers are, because so many companies, it's funny, I would have never imagined how many companies are out there that the owners don't understand what their numbers are. They don't look at it on a day-to-day basis or a month-to-month basis. They look at it when they have to sign the check to the tax accountant at the end of the year, maybe, and that's about it. And so being able to really get these companies dialed in to understand what their numbers are and how they can be more profitable is huge.
I completely agree. All right, now I'm going to flip the script, and I didn't prepare you for this. So
great.
Like I said, hey, let's get on. I'll interview you. And now I'm telling you, you know what? What's the one question you want to ask me? This is unscripted. This is Pivot in the Wild, everybody.
Yes. Oh, that is a great question. What do I want to ask you?
Yeah, it could be anything.
That's you did throw me off with that one, because I feel like I know you pretty well just from prior and now. But I want to know, what was your one thing that drew you to Pivot as well?
It's a good question. And I think we've talked about this a little bit, just, interpersonally, you and I, but there were two things that were motivating for me in choosing the next chapter of my career.
Mm-hmm.
One of them was making sure that I had time to be with my daughters as they were growing up. I've got my two daughters who are 6 and 3, and I'm like, okay, like they actually want to spend time with me right now, and like that's not going to be the case in another
Right.
10 years.
Get what
So
you can.
get it while I can, and then like if I still got fire in me and I want to go take over the state again with a different restoration company, I can do that at that point. But the other one was, and it was, I can't remember where the concept was introduced to me, but this whole concept of the eulogy test, right? Evaluating our actions and our day-to-day things that we do through the lens of, is it important enough that somebody's willing to stand up at my funeral and talk about it? Is it creating that much meaning that somebody's going to go through the effort to make sure they're there and talk about the good that action did in their lives?
Mm-hmm.
And when I started looking at the landscape of opportunity and putting some guardrails of, okay, if I want to have meaningful time with my kids, that means I can't run a business with employees, right? That's always going to be competing for that time. And also being relatively green and just not having any consulting experience. I had a ton of operational experience for sure, but like I had no shtick as a consultant. And when I started talking with John and learning the underbelly that is our Pivot infrastructure and everything, more and more, every time I revisited it, it just made more sense. But it became a platform by which it stood the test of, the eulogy test, right? Like through these interactions and the support of our members, like change will be so profound and so meaningful for them and the people that work for them that there's a chance they're going to show up and talk about how meaningful that experience was at my funeral.
That's actually pretty impressive.
I'm a deep, intellectual food.
I was just about to say, you're a little deeper than you like to let on to be sometimes.
Well, I'm a Gemini, right? So I kind of have all the faces covered. I can be anything
there you go.
Need to be.
Oh, okay. Just depends on what mood you're in.
Yeah. And like as the day goes on later in the evening and the more alcohol I consume, the more philosophical I am.
Oh, okay.
That's a hard fact.
Well, we might have to have a few drinks then at RAA and see how, philosophical you
Count me in. I am down.
Yes.
Awesome. Well, thanks so much for taking some time to, just kind of get the news out and talk story with me and share a little bit of your story and why you're here. Also want to let everybody know out there in social media land, we did launch our new website. Yes. And so very, very intentional about the branding and how we wanted to put ourselves forth out into the marketplace. And if you haven't gone and taken a look at it, some cool stuff there. There's bios on all of us. And then if you want to learn more about Pivot, we have the option. You can download one of our case studies and you can see real world what's happening in the experience that other restoration companies are having within Pivot.
A lot of time and effort was put into that. A lot of blood, sweat, and tears from some of the staff. So make sure you guys go check it out. Let us know how we did.
Yep. And anything you want to talk about relative to the website?
I don't think there's anything specific. I think you hit all the points. Just make sure that they go out, check it out, learn a little bit about everybody. You can go in and read your little bios about myself and Anthony. And I suggest everybody do that because it's kind of fun.
Yeah, right on. Well, thanks again, Shannon. I appreciate your time, and I will see you next week on our team call.
All right. Take care.
Take care.